Happening right now. Charges, charges, charges seems to be such a common word lately. Can we all just get along? Oh, we have a great show on deck for you today. Stick around, y'all. The chat starts now.
Welcome to the chat. I'm Tony Fox, Henny Angelia, and guest host, New York Times best-selling author Steve Barry joins the panel today. Hello.
In a different form.
Different form.
You've been a guest before, but now you are sitting in the hot seat.
Yes, I have to watch the whole time now and pay attention to all that.
You really do. It's
usually
different.
I sit on the sofa over there, usually
right.
kind of nap a little bit.
Wait a minute, you're napping during our show, Mr. Barry?
Well,
now you may want to rephrase that.
I'm usually the last segment, and it's usually freezing in here when I'm here.
Yes, that is true. It is a meat locker in the studio.
Well,
you warmed it up for us today.
Yeah.
Steve, many of your books are based on history, and something that people might not know, you were a trial lawyer for 30 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So you also held elective office for 14 years. So we have you here in the hot seat, as Henny said, because we want you to comment a little bit on some of our stories from that legal perspective that we think you're going to bring to the table. Literally.
I'll try.
That was good.
All right, so let's start with a call for continued bipartisanship. The Republicans and Democrats in the House of Representatives, if I can say it, will still play baseball tonight, one day after an attack on the Republican congressional team at a ballpark in Alexandria, Virginia. The team managers announced that the game is going to go on while calling for Congress to stop being so partisan.
You know, it shouldn't take an incident like this to bring us together. I know in times of tragedy we have Americans do that, but Joe and I have been reflecting a lot lately just on how we can still maintain our principles and our legislative agendas, but we could do it in a more civil way. And when the leadership of this country is civil towards one another, maybe the public will start being civil towards one another too.
That would be tremendous. I guess that means like you and I aren't going to be arguing so much.
We'll be friends again.
No, we're good with it, but so many people are not. And I hate to see this be a situation where, you know how, like if a tragedy happens in your family and you all come together and you love each other and you're wonderful, and then time goes by and then you're back at fighting
again. Of course, it hit close to home.
Right. But I feel like there really needs to be serious change in this country.
Absolutely.
That we've got to stop this, and there has to, and I've been saying it a lot on this show. I mean, I've said that I am tired of the partisanship. I'm tired of the games. You've got to compromise. There used to be something called compromise in government. It really used to happen, and it doesn't happen anymore. And I feel like we've got to get back to that if we want to, number one, solve problems. And isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Anyway,
right?
absolutely,
Well,
I agree.
I mean, you can't compromise whenever you don't step foot on someone else's property. I mean, like the Democrats were saying, the Republicans have never even stepped foot in their facility before. They've never seen it. They've never been there. So you can't compromise if you're not together and have a meeting of the minds and actually hash it out. But with that being said,
and they never do that anymore.
But with that being
don't.
said, this is a very difficult circumstance because,
Yes.
I mean, like one of the representatives said, I thought he worded it the best, and it was in a funny way, but he said, we'll be there, but we'll bring a food taster, because they don't know what they're going to be expecting on the other side. So I'm hoping that they're able to come to a meeting of the minds, but I think it's going to be difficult because I think they're going to twist it and put it into gun control. It's going to be everything about gun control in a light way, but I think they are going to make sure that they put their thoughts out there on the table because they have an agenda, just like the Republicans have an agenda, just like everyone else.
Okay, but that's fine.
So I think it'll be interesting.
I'm not saying that you don't have an agenda. Obviously, both sides do. But there used to be a situation. I mean, anyone remember? Wasn't it Clinton and Newt Gingrich who got together to come up with a I mean, people would do that in government. I feel like that it's like my way or the highway, you know? And one side takes over the administration and then undoes everything the other one did. I feel like sometimes, did you do it because you really believe in it, or did you just do it out of spite because I want to do the opposite thing?
I served in office 14 years, and politics is, to me, not a dirty word. Politics means compromise. No one gets everything that they want.
Right.
No one gets 100% of what they want. The trick is to try to get as much as you can.
Sure.
Get as much as you can get, but you give a little to get a little.
Yeah.
And I always did that. I had 5 commissioners, and you had to make a deal to get 2 other votes to get what you wanted, and you compromised. You gave a little here and there, and that's the problem when you dig in and say, I want it all.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get it all, and then eventually something boils over to like what happened yesterday,
Yeah.
and then hopefully it's a wake-up call now that everybody will take a look and say, come on now, let's see what we can do to hash out a middle ground.
I really hope it is.
An olive branch has been extended, so we'll see. Maybe the adults of Congress can come together and everyone can have a meeting of the minds.
Can we all
somehow,
just get along,
somehow,
please?
some way.
Okay, now, so we're going to move on. A new turn in the Russian investigation this morning. The Washington Post is reporting that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is now investigating President Donald Trump for possible obstruction of justice. Now, the report states that this investigation started just days after Trump fired FBI Director James Comey. A president spokesperson says this leak is outrageous, inexcusable, and illegal. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Barry. There's so much with this. Just go.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If I was representing the President of the United States,
As a lawyer,
the one thing I would have told him immediately is don't meet alone with the director of the FBI. I mean, that makes no sense. There's no reason to do that. There's no purpose to do that. And all you're doing is asking for trouble when that happens. You're just saying, please, let me create innuendo. Let me create a lot of problems here. So that's the first thing I would have told you. If he needs to speak to the director of the FBI, great, no problem. He has an attorney general that can do that. He has staff who can do that. He can even do that in the context of a meeting with other people present. But yet, no, he wanted to have a private discussion, and that raises questions right off the bat.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to this obstruction of justice, you know, when Comey testified, a lot was made of the phrasing that he said, Trump said to him, I hope that la 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 la. And some were saying that's obstruction of justice, blah, blah, blah. What is the legal definition of that Robert Mueller is going to be looking at as he investigates?
And that's where this gets muddied up, because obstruction of justice is where you do anything to impede the effective administration of justice, but you have to intend to do it.
Okay.
You have to actually have the intent to do it. It can't be happenstance or as a consequence or accidental. You have to intend to do it.
But do they have a way to prove that it was
That's going to be the
intentional?
problem here, because it's he said, he said. So, you know, it's going to be difficult to prove, absolutely. Now, it depends on how the president keeps going. If he decides he wants to fire the special prosecutor, if he wants to, I mean, if I was him, I'd stop. I mean, I'd just stop, pull back, let it run its course, and let it go where it is. But he seems to want to keep interjecting himself into that process. And if he was my client, that's what I would tell him. I'd say, go be president, do what you got to do, stay out of this.
So is obstruction, just out of interest, whenever you say we're in the same room together and we say, I hope that you come to a conclusion on your own, or if I say, I really hope that you come to a conclusion on your own. Well, is that a difference in obstruction?
Absolutely.
So it's really more about tone and not exactly what you said.
And Comey said that he took it to mean that the president wanted it done. Now, the president says, that's not what I intended. So it's a he said situation. There's where the problem comes. You have to intend to want to interject yourself into the process.
So what were your personal thoughts on the Comey testimony?
Well, some of it was a little, you know, I sympathized with him a little bit, because there he is in the room with his boss, caught in the middle. Something extraordinary is happening there. He just wants to get out. You know, how can I get out of here? And I mean, he was caught off guard, and he didn't, you know, and it. Just one of those things that I felt for him a little bit. Then it bothered me a little bit about leaking the document. I didn't, you know, why leak the document? Why not? If you're going to put the document out there, just put it out there. You know,
right? Just do it yourself. Why do it?
That made him look guilty. That one little thing. The rest of his testimony, I thought he was brilliant.
That bothered me, I have to say. If I was him and I wanted it out, I'd just call a press conference. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here, put it right out there.
He do that?
That's a good question. Other than the fact that he's in an extraordinary situation that he doesn't. He's not equipped for it. He's never done that before. He gives me the impression of being somewhat of a straight arrow, of a straight arrow. I'm a straight arrow, black and white kind of guy.
Right.
Probably has to be to work for the FBI.
And
the head of the FBI, rather. All right. Well, something else that's making headlines today. 5 people are now facing charges for the Flint, Michigan water crisis. The state's attorney general filed involuntary manslaughter charges against the head of Michigan's health department and 4 others. In 2014, Flint moved the source of water from Detroit to the Flint River. The water was properly treated. It allowed lead from pipes to seep into the drinking water, and 12 people died. So what do you think about these charges?
Yay.
Do you think these are fair and balanced? And
Yay. Yay.
Well, Steve, I
Yeah,
mean,
Steve, what do you
these to
think?
me are extraordinary charges as well.
It's unusual.
Because it's involuntary manslaughter. I mean, granted, I'm not like a big expert and I don't remember every incident of a public official being charged, but I don't think I remember something in a situation
so
like this.
many public
where-
officials, not just one.
And they're charged with involuntary manslaughter, which is causing the death of somebody, not just like corruption or something. Is this not a pretty extraordinary charge?
In this country, it is. You see it a lot overseas, more so, where public officials are charged in the deaths of folks. But I don't see the problem here. If these people knew there was a dangerous situation, or better yet, not knew, but in voluntary manslaughter, they were reckless. They had a reckless disregard, is what the legal is. They basically just plowed ahead and didn't check things out properly, and 12 people died. I mean, come on, someone's got to be responsible for that.
I agree, and I'm happy that unfortunately they're using these people. They're using them as an example.
Yeah, but shouldn't they be made an example if, like you said, 12
somebody
people
needs to be
died?
held accountable, because these people had reported this problem, they knew about this problem, and they continued to turn their eye on it because it was making their pockets fat. So yes, somebody needs to be held accountable for all those people that died. They were, as we all know, that they were Legionnaire's disease, which is a form of pneumonia which is caused by bacteria. That is what a lot of them had, and as we mentioned, 12 of them died. Someone has to be held responsible for their death. This has been going on for years and years and years.
Yeah, it was. It
Yes,
was a long time.
yes.
Is it something, though, that's going to be hard to prove, to go to that involuntary manslaughter situation?
I'm assuming that the district attorney who made the charges has looked at that very closely, and he's not brought these charges unless he can make it stick. I mean, he's not, no DA is going to file a charge to lose. So he's had lots of time to look at this, lots of time to study
years,
it, and they've taken a hard look, and they feel like they can make the case. And it'll be up to 12 jurors now. I mean, 12 people, 12 good citizens will be put in a room, and they will decide what will happen.
Now, prior to this, there were 4 of them that were actually here. The 6 that's been charged, there they are there. Well, with manslaughter. Now, previously, 4 of them had been charged with a lesser charge, but now it's been kind of upgraded. So that tells me that there was something that was found to make them upgrade these charges to involuntary manslaughter.
Well, would it be knowledge? Would it be the knowledge that this could happen? Would that
more
be
than
what would be
more than
upgrade?
that?
Okay.
Disregard.
Okay.
In other words, they realized there was a problem.
Okay.
And they kept doing nothing. That's that's basically what involuntary manslaughter is. You don't intend to kill someone, but your reckless disregard results in someone dying.
Okay.
And what do you need, a paper trail for that, or how do you prove that?
Well, that's a good question. Either witnesses who came in and said, "Look, we got problems with these pipes out here, you know, and there's all kinds of problems." He says, "I forget it, you know, leave it alone. We're not going to mess with it." You know, it depends. It could be oral testimony, it could be documentation, it could be a lot of things. But I'm assuming the district attorney's done his homework because, as I said, he's not filing charges to lose. He's you know, he's done his work, and he's got enough that he thinks he can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Kudos to whoever it was that brought these charges forward. Someone needs to be held accountable for a change.
I hope that in the future, if they are made an example and people died, that future government officials will think about that before they might ignore something. If they end up getting convicted, if this all, you know, etc. So, all right, well, coming up next, we are going to find out more about Steve Berry, not just his legal opinions of things, but his new book, what he does in his spare time might surprise you. We're going to talk about it when we come back.
Hear ye!